the show. Right. Okay, thank you very much for having us with us. Thank you very much. So now they will go downstairs, down the stage, and then they will show and tell some words about the sheets.
And what is freedom for we all? Freedom is mainly freedom of choosing. So one of the main words is choose. Choose and be. So freedom of choosing and freedom of being. Being what we want to be, and think what we want to think, and do what we want to do, and where and when we want to do all these things. So freedom of choosing and freedom of being. And belonging to ourselves as individual, also the possibility is another word, possibility and opportunity. Freedom is a possibility and opportunity for all of us. But freedom is not only something that deals with ourselves, as an individual, but also.
It was quite hard to find sentences for the people because it's something we relate with technological matters, and often I saw many people thinking about it deeply. Anyway, I think we could get many ideas. All the ideas are very interesting. But I think the most used words were ideas and share ideas and try out new ways. This was a very chosen one, new ways. So share ideas and find new ways, and also growth. Power, growth, something always related with our strength to be to face the future. And other words were social, something related with the social innovation. And women want to be innovative. They are founders of the social innovation. Challenge also is an important word.
The last word we chose, and it's a quite important word, and sometimes could appear as a word not correct when we are speaking about Europe as a whole. But Europe as a whole don't mean to lose differences, because the Europe is USP, unique selling proposition, is diversity. Somebody said we are not like America or other countries or big players in the world, all equal or all the same. We are different, and we have to preserve this different, but to make from the difference value. Okay, and the most important part of diversity and is tolerance and respect for the difference. Diversity doesn't mean to be each other in the other different parts and don't come together, but to respect and to be tolerant with the differences. And this could be reached teaching this value at all levels and at all ages, in the school, at work, and so on. The second point was to recognize different levels of skill and competences, because diversity is not only the diversity of race or religion or so, but it's also diversity in the competences and in the skills that we have, and to recognize these differences is very important in order to create new professions professional profiles and increase through this recognition the level of positive diversity in boards of companies, in board of parties, and also in leadership. And it's very interesting that they said we need some colorful mixture of different age and different gender and educated people in all kinds of leadership.
Eccola, yes she is. What I'm going to do now, in the first part of this conference this morning we had the possibility, and we offer you the possibility to understand and to speak of different topics. We gave you, and we gave ourselves a different idea. We spoke about youth, we spoke about women, we spoke about finance, economics. And we would like now to try to make a summary or some conclusion, if it's possible. I mean, on this topic there's no conclusion because it's all, everything is work in progress, but we have the good luck tonight, we have two politicians. And I think that when someone is, I would say, think could be an open city, where every citizen can be free.
Thank you very much. The first thing I want to say is that I was really struck by by one of the things that was written there with, it's okay? Yeah. With freedom, you know, one of the phrases, freedom is basically to follow rules. So I thought that that was a very interesting line, because actually for a lot of people freedom is to do exactly the opposite, to be free, not to follow rules. So, but of course if everybody doesn't follow rules, then nobody would be free, or only few people would be free. So I think that that was a very wise way of describing what the fact that to be free you need everybody else to be free as well, in a way, because otherwise this is something that is only for some. And my idea of an open city is exactly a place where this question of equality goes very much hand in hand with the idea of the capacity of doing what one's inspirations are without, you know, going against or taking out the same freedom for others. So when you speak about an open city or a place where this idea of freedom is positive, you unfortunately understand that things get complicated. You know, it's not easy to organize freedom for all. And in a lot of governments, including in here in Italy, there was the illusion for some time that the fact that everybody was free would be good for everybody, you know? And in reality, that created a situation of privilege of some. So once again, for me, when you're speaking about an open city, it is true you need rules, and you also need everybody able, or at least most of the people wanting to play the game of being free among other people. And also you have to accept the fact that my idea of being free and being open is not exactly yours, but on the other hand, we have to agree on a level playing field. And this in our cities, which are more and more diverse and more multicultural, is very important. Because, for example, when we are speaking, I live in a country which is, I come from the city, but I live in Belgium. And in the place where I live, 64% of the people are of non-European and mostly Muslim origins. And the life in that part of the city was difficult. It became better and better, but there is still a fundamental choice to be done. The fact that I accept that these people can live in freedom means that a lot of women, for example, are excluded from public life, have reproduced in that country a situation of oppression, and are actually bringing us also confronting us with going back to our own freedoms. So I think that in the moment in which you're speaking about an open city, you also have to speak about groups, as I said at the beginning, and you also have to speak about your sense of openness and of wanting to ensure freedom of choice to everybody that sometimes has to be forced on those people. And so I believe that all these things are, of course, very complicated questions, but I believe that if you have the ambitions to govern, you have to be very clear about what are your guiding values, and those guiding values have to be universal somehow.
And to go deep inside of the will to choose effectively what we want to be. I followed your group for a per minutes, and you talked about school and instruction. Would you apply the concept of freedom to the European school, maybe, or to the Italian school in comparison with other schools or Europe?
It's a big question, and first of all I would to say sorry for my English because it's not to Monica levels, so I try to answer. We have a long discussion in the group about the school and about instruction, and we say each other that sometimes we have some European law about the school, on the school. There aren't enough concrete to answer at different questions that they change the word to put in our face. So I think a freedom school is a school able to look at the changed world and able to answer to a different question of this time. The questions this time put in front of us is the first of all, in a world where we have all the information in a click, how to choose and how to make the students, the young and also the adults able to choose between important things and not so important things. But to be concrete and but because the school is able to do in so way, we need a school with enough money. And I think in the Europe, a school freedom have to be a school with enough money to work with young and with lifelong learning program for to mettere a disposizione delle persone, to dispose to people the possibility to change in the life job, to change also way of to think at the life. So it's impossible to have.
Thinking about the money which is not enough, unfortunately, for education in Europe. What I remarked on the sentences which were written by our colleagues was what I stress now is on diversity, which is also linked somewhat to the freedom and the innovation that we can live in Europe in different culture. What I mean is that, is it possible through diversity to come to an opportunity of finding a joint reason for making things equal in the different countries, from an environmental point of view as well as from an educational point of view, because this is the goal that we wanted to reach through you, to the European community. Okay.
Thank you. I think that one of the problems that we have when we speak about diversity in Europe today is the fact that in reality we are not speaking about diversity, but we are speaking about identity. And I think that in the moment in which you talk about identity, everything gets very complicated and everything gets very and potentially controversial. And I think that this is true also for politics, in the sense that if you define yourself not because of what you want to reach or what you want to do, but because of what you are, then you are inevitably going to have a conflict with those who are defining themselves as diverse from you, even if they want to do the same thing. And they start to have a gain power with you because they have a different identity. And therefore, I think that we have to be careful about what we mean when we talk about diversity, because I can be different from you, but I want to work with you in order to reach a goal, and that's why perhaps the fact that we are diverse is not a richness or something that makes life more difficult, but it's simply one condition in which we live. But if you make of the diversity, meaning the different identity, the only ground of your action, then we are in trouble. And that is what happens today at European level. In the sense that everybody is talking in terms of Germans, Italians, or whatever. And when you have the member states negotiating, you do not have very much of a European spirit in there. There is not many people who are thinking about the European interest. And this is the case also for members of the European Parliament and also for members of the national states. I'm talking about them, of course, there are always some exceptions. But the reason for this is very simple. The members of Parliament are elected from national lists. So they have to make themselves be valid because they come from their own country. And people who are working at European level don't get re-elected. It's as simple as that. So the question of diversity is not made as a value because I join my diversity to yours, but it is simply the way of playing a naval battle, let's say, between Italians or whatever. So this is the first problem I have with the concept of diversity as it is, because it is not just a slogan. In order to make sure that diversity serves the purpose of what you're saying, we have to start thinking that we need more money for education, but we don't have more money for education because member states don't want to give more money for education. And if, for example, our country would have stopped the negotiations on the budget of the European Union and would not have accepted Madame Merkel's demand of reducing it, and Mr. Cameron's demand of reducing it just out of propaganda in order to sell the thing to their own country people, perhaps instead of having a cut of 34 billion euros on that budget, which is already ridiculous because it's only 1% of the whole GDP of the whole European Union, we would have one country, Italy or Belgium or whatever, who would have done a battle for everybody. But they decided not to do it, you see. So it's always, once again, it's like a cat eating its own tail. It is very nice to say, yes, let's be diverse, and we are diverse, and so we are richer. But in reality, today, the diversity is not a richness, but it is something which is basically put there in order to increase barriers. And that is something that we have to fight against.
We talk about innovation. Innovation, I think, can be a word that summarizes, because to be better, to go beyond, must be innovative. I was struck from what one of our participants wrote. I can't remember who was, who wrote in the innovation 1 + 1 = 3. It was a very plastic idea and concrete idea that innovation is creativity and to go to think better, to think beyond. So my question is to the both politicians, please give us a very concrete idea of maybe yours in a specific project, a very specific, maybe I would suggest this area to be concrete, maybe in the school, maybe in maybe in the smart city, maybe in communication. I mean, we are waiting, we don't want to think the politicians to be abstract people.
The idea that I would like to see implemented is basically to have houses for lots of people which do not waste energy. I think that if we would have a situation in our cities that you can use technologies, which by the way a lot of them already exist. For example, there are paintings that isolate your house and do not allow to waste energy. We would have a situation in which people would live better, because that is the point. It's not only to have a house that is zero energy, it is also a house in which people live well. And I think that would be a fantastic plan. And I think if I had to think about a Marshall Plan 2 or 3 or 4 for Europe, that would be a great point to make sure that all our cities, or at least most of our cities in Europe, are not only efficient under an energetic point of view, but also a better place to live and more beautiful, because there is more light, because there is more green, and there is more common places, and these are all things that are possible. And if you talked about this 25 or 30 years ago, you could be treated as a dreamer, but today there are a lot of cities where this thing is happening. And so I think that is what we have to do to make these kind of dreams possible projects.
A concrete project about innovation, I think, could be about the use of, now we have great opportunities with the technology of the communication, with the ICT. I think could be a new way of life to improve this ICT, just not in the communication, but for example in the health. I think I don't know very well in the other country, but I think in Italy, and especially in some area not very near to the big town, I think in the mountain areas or in the country, how to be a good way to raise the quality of life, the ICT use for the health, for the medical situation, or for the hospital. And this is a concrete project that we worked and we propose in these days in our national parliaments. So.
We are now trying to make a strange thing. A strange thing just to show that when women make stuff and work together, it's possible to put together ideas and overcome. I asked to our speakers to put one question, one another. So we asked Monica to put a question to Marina, and the same for you. So you are moderator of yourself now. I translate for our guest. Marina says, please be good.
No, I am very good. I just want to know, you are a member of the Italian Parliament, and I would like you to tell me what is, if you were really powerful and really you could do something, what is the thing that you would do in the next year? The next year, one thing that you would do if you would really have the power to do it, all by yourself, and say, okay, I decided, and this thing gets true.
You'll be lucky she was good, eh? Let's think about when she was bad. And
because I say in the group that I start to be a member of Italian Parliament in March. So for me it's a very new experience. In my life I am a teacher, and so in this new experience I saw a lot of things that if I have power I would like to change, but just one. I think maybe for my job, maybe for also my experience as a parent of two children going at school. I think if I have power, I would like to change the school system in Italy, because we have had some we have done some step, and we go better in spite of some years ago, but it's not enough. I would like to let the school able to learn to children and to young, able to be citizen in this world. And the school, I think, it's the Italian school, but a bit also the European school that I know, it's not able to do that. And I think in a global world as we live, is necessary to have citizen consapevoli, with aware, with conscience, to be a citizen in a world and not in a little place or in a country. My question, I am curious. I am curious, no, I am just curious because you are president of the European Green Party, and the green economy, the items and the topics about all green things, it's we all of us, we know that there are the main question in this moment. And I would like to know how is your experience to coordinate a European party also as Italian, because in Italy this sensibility is not very high. So I'm curious to know your experience in that.
You were not very kind.
That's what politicians are.
Yes, I think it is indeed a strange situation, because I'm co-chairing, because in the Greens you always have a man and a woman chairing the parties. It is indeed a very challenging work, but I have been working in the Greens at European level since 1990, even before I became a Green. And I must say that at the very beginning of my work in the European Parliament, I was sitting in a room with Greens coming from 10 or 12 different countries, and each of them were screaming at each other saying, I am more green than you. And yeah, it was like that. Mostly the Germans were shouting at us. And there, after some years, there was a real development of a common sense of having a challenge, because in the moment in which you want to change the world and change and make it more green, you cannot do it in your home, and you cannot do it only in your country. You need the European level. And therefore, I think that my work as a coordinator of different parties comes from the fact that we all agree on 3 or 4 major topics. That is, to have a green transformation, we need to go through paths that go towards a European strong union, a federal Europe. And therefore, we leave aside the issues that make us different, because we have, for example, just to make an example, to make a discussion among the Italian, or the surviving ones, the Spanish, the Greeks, and the Germans on the crisis. Even if you're talking about Greece, it is not easy. But it was very interesting to bring also the Germans, the Austrians, the Finns, to understand that it was not possible for them to be real Greens if they would agree with austerity policies, and with those policies who punished, basically, under the point of view of the future of Europe, this family, so this continent. So I believe that the important thing about creating a European party is to try to find the common ground in the objectives of the changing of the world and in the Union of Europe. And that is, so I don't see myself, as I say, as a coordinator of national people, but as a coordinator of Greens who share the same objectives and can have different ideas about how to reach them. So that's why, and this of course is something that you learn and that you try to bring it to Italy, above all because, you know, I was first elected in Belgium. I was the first non-national elected in Belgium. And when I came back to Italy, it was difficult because the Greens here are not very fashionable. And that's true. And so the fact of building a new party, a new environmentalist party, or a new sensitivity of Greens also here, comes from the fact that I believe it is very important. I would love, for example, just to close here, that the Greens would not be necessary. You know, I would love that the Partito Democratico or the Partito from the right wing would take up environmental issues, but unfortunately they don't, and that's why they're here. I would love to dismantle to that
Preferred the voice question from the public instead of the Twitter, because I think it's more empathic. Not because there were a lot of Twitter, but I think we think it's better because it creates an empathic situation, and maybe as they put the question together, we went beyond the formal way you make conference. But I see that you are a little bit tired. Say with a passionate by heart, thank you, and close this conference. It had been for us a very important possibilities for all of us of joining together, to know each other, and to talk about very important things. And I know that important is a wide word. It means everything and nothing. But this time, today, we have been really very concrete, not just in arguments, but also in a way of being, in a way of talking each other, in a way of writing, a way of discussing. I mean, important is to be concrete, as normally women are. So I had to close the works of this conference, and I would like to make a present for you. Thank you, Gerard. Thank you for being here to join us. So, let me thank you. Pardon? I call you. Right now, if you want to stay with us, it's your turn. Okay. First of all, we would like to thank to all participants for today, the Italian delegation and German, Austrian, Spanish, and all other delegations who be here. All participants, thank you very much. You joined this today with us, and yesterday and tomorrow with us. I would like to call on the stage the co-president and Selene Dioni. I know that she hates this moment, but we want to be here with us. So, now it's your turn. We would like you to say something to the audience.
Well, first of all, I would like to say bravissime to those who are still there. Because you are the ones who kind of carried the energy through the whole conference, and I want to thank you very much for being part of it till the end. Thank you. The second thing I would like to do, and it's a pleasure and an honor for me to do that, is that I would like to extend my thank yous to the women who made this event possible. Because I think what you achieved, and that is the only content thing that I'm going to say, because I don't want to keep you away from your dressing up and from the dinner, is what I particularly liked about this conference is that you addressed the topic on both relevant levels, on the intellectual level, but also on the sensual part. So, you know, you made our heads and our hearts and tummies think and kind of interact regarding the relevant topics. And I do believe that we can only move ahead and only be a relevant part of this discussion if we address both levels. So thank you very much for being complete in this aspect. And Astrid Hake is helping me in giving away our thank you. May I ask the member of the organizing committee to come forward so that we don't have to throw the things at you?
Yes, thank you, because I should be, but I'm so tired. So please.
Okay, so I take the job over. Daniela, don't run away. Okay, as Daniela is gone, yeah. I have heard, and a little bird has told me, worked in the background were many more. Yeah? So what we did, because we were trying to find a creative solution, we found some sweethearts in the heart of Europe, and I will give, we have 25 of them, so we will give these tiny little thank yous to the team leaders who are present here, and we would kindly ask you to pass it on to your team members. Thank you very much.